You can see it, it's a big rivet.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning, welcome everybody to another day
Morning.
of decision-making, I understand, so. First thing we have is the agenda. Is there anything we need to add or delete to our agenda? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have the minutes of the August 29th meeting attached. Are there any additions, corrections, clarifications to those minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion then, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is also carried. First on our agenda, top of the list, start up our morning is Chris Whitaker with RFP discussion for Region 12. Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Morning, Chris.
How's everybody today?
Good.
Good.
We had some discussion concerning the Mallard View situation, and Region 12 has offered and talked to us about perhaps doing an RFP, and the board requested your presence here to explain it. So
Well,
we'll let you go.
You know, we started this discussion, I guess, during your last planning session about, you know, Mallard View, what to do with it. You just sell it, do you just let it sit there and go up in the weeds, or, you know, what's your ultimate goal, I guess? So, kind of in those brief discussions, we've had some other local governments in the region and most across the state that have used the RFP process to dispose of property. And it really they feel it's the best, a way to gain the highest and best use out of a property to be disposed of. So, I think that'd be a good alternative for Mallard View. You know, and I think there's a lot of ideas, potentially. I think that everybody could write the number of what the value of that property is on a piece of paper right now, and I think there'd be a pretty good spread around this table, around this room. So, I think the RFP process is really the way to do it. But, you know, the things to consider, I guess, when we would issue that, and tell me the things that are important to you is, one, of course, price. It's always going to be, I think, a high priority. You know, the intended use, and then either, you know, what's the property going to be used for? Is it going to be a sales tax revenue generator? Is it just going to be a property tax generator for the county? Because, you know, you could get a high dollar on the front end, and if you sold it to, say, nonprofit, generate property tax out of it. So is that an issue? You know, job creation's another. Could be housing, could be assisted living, could be, you name it. So, tell me your thoughts.
Chris, you mentioned there'd been several of them throughout the region, and
I've had a couple throughout. I shouldn't say,
Okay.
there's been some throughout the state, a couple throughout in the region.
do you think you could get your hands on a sample or two?
Yep.
I'd like to see one, and
Sure.
And regardless of what their intended use was, I'd just
Right.
like to see a couple of samples.
Sure.
And are these a fairly simple one-page type of document, or do they get, you've seen, like our mental health RFP was, I mean, it read like the Old Testament, so.
Well, I'm not gonna prepare an RFP that looks like the Old Testament, I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I'd like a one or two pager, right?
But I think you need to determine, you know, what exactly you're gonna sell there. Is it just the Mallard View building and X number of acres? And you have a storage building there too. How much property you really want? You wanna be, I think, very, very clear, so that you know what so everybody knows what they're bidding on or proposing. Also, you know, really the square footage of the building, number of rooms. I know there's some, hey, this part's this old, and this other part's X or Y older or newer. You'll just do the survey there on Google Map. That's
I just did a
awesome.
survey, yeah, no,
So-
they're just a map, and my thought would be to draw a line somewhere in there and sell or rent off the bottom part. I would prefer to sell it actually is to rent it. And we do have a tower here, so the one thing we need to be concerned about is we're gonna have to have the ingress and egress
Easement.
or an easement of some type,
Sure.
even if we do sell it, to access that. I don't think the farming part needs that at all, but we do. And then, some of these buildings are kinda outdated. I'm not sure if there's any usage for them to rent, or if they should just, like the grain bin is a has-been for sure. Some of these maybe secondary roads could store some stuff in or something. I would have to look at that.
Actually, at grain bin, I've got a guy that's interested in that.
Well, that'd be great, because we have, as far as us, we have no use for grain bin. We produce no crops. So, that would be my thought. I do not want to survey it in advance of the RFP,
Right.
because maybe someone would say, that's good, but we need more, we need a
Right.
bigger area. And then you would have wasted a
Yeah,
survey.
I agree, Neil. As long as I think as long as you've got a general, kind of a general idea, this is what our intent is. But if you want an outbuilding, I think that's also an
Yeah,
option.
obviously, if somebody wanted to buy the whole thing with all those buildings, I would be okay with that as too. We'd just have to have some type of
Access
agreement
to
with the tower that we
And
could
that's not,
keep it and get at it.
that's not uncommon.
Any other thoughts from the board? I think we've discussed this already.
Back to the RFP, what would be the method of distribution, or there's gotta be some
You
bit
publish
of
it-
marketing
you
to it?
publish it, of course. You know, I think you would send it to, we've got some pretty aggressive developers of different types of properties in and around the region. You've got assisted living, nursing home facilities that have also seen some aggressive growth. We've got contacts there, DMAC, New Hope, maybe they have a use for dorms or that type of property too. We have a list through Western Iowa Management Site Selectors. It's not a difficult process to make that, to shoot that out to a number of people and say, here's your idea, see what sticks.
Okay, so it's kinda twofold. The publication you hopefully would catch whoever we didn't catch.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and that covers your formal legal requirements.
Okay.
So,
So where would you publicize it then? Just a local paper, or you wouldn't go outside of that? City trade magazines, or?
no, that would not be my recommendation. I would target it to.
Certain individual businesses.
To developers, site selectors, people that would be in the market for that type of building. Because it's no cost, or very low cost.
I agree with Mark. I think our outreach as far as publicizing, it's very important. It's a one-time opportunity, and if you sell it and then hear of somebody down the road that,
Right.
gee, I wish I'd have known about that, would have been worth more than that, to me, it's too late. And I do think there may be some advantages going outside the region. For
Sure.
example, for nursing homes, there could easily be someone interested in creating a nursing home here who's not in our community
Sure.
now. So I don't think we should restrict it to our local county by any means.
And I wouldn't restrict it to our local region.
Right.
So, and here's the deal, we might go through this effort, might not get any proposals.
Right.
I mean, that's just the chance you
Right.
take.
Sure.
Then you might get 10.
But you leave these proposals probably loose in their options as far as renting or selling, particularly if it's a nonprofit, we'd probably be open to a rental agreement, I assume.
It's possible. My preference would be to sell it.
Well, I
get
think
it
I
on
sure
title,
think there too, but
Yeah.
but I could see.
That would be my second choice, Gene, but
Yeah.
an option.
But I think we ought to leave those options open.
Okay.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
How do you arrive at a value for this property?
I think somebody's gonna have to tell you what the value is. What's the value?
Well, we talked
You
last
got a
week
number,
about
I
the
bet you
assessor's
Mark's got a number,
office.
yeah.
The assessor's office could give us, at least a rent equivalent, at the very least.
One thing the assessor did do you have those papers?
On what she printed off on Hawkeye.
Hawkeye, that is a nursing home that you may be familiar with that's in Carroll. And Courtney has the numbers on that that's provided by our assessor. Jenny, you have a question?
Was the possibility of annexing it into the city, and would that be an advantage?
Well, the city would have to want it,
Well,
you know. I mean,
Well,
you've got to get there too.
and you're pretty close,
That's a,
city limits.
Yeah, there's
yeah, right across the
You got
street.
some land in between there that's.
It's a
gonna
pretty fair
put a
chunk of
problem
farmland
there.
in between, it's
Yeah.
privately owned.
A little bit, but you got city water, no sewer, isn't it, going through there?
Mhm.
Yes.
You would-
that's, I mean, you can't, as far as the annexation site, does that make it more marketable in the city or not? Well, it depends on the use a little bit, but the annexation site, you can't just go leapfrog and annex an island. And
Right.
I don't think you're quite there. Is there any city limits contiguous? No. So you'd have to get some cooperation there to do a voluntary annexation. No, I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
Right.
Trying to find the square footage on that building.
On the Hawkeye building or
Yeah,
the
to see
Mallard
if
View
that was
building?
even comparable in size. They have Hawkeye at 2.3 million. That seems a little high, but, I mean,
Sounds
if you're
all right.
comparing it to Mallard View.
You can dream.
Well, the
So you take 2.3 million for it?
Like I said, you can dream.
Opening offer.
Opening offer, 2.3 million.
We'll just take it.
I think you've got to, that's an interesting, it's an interesting building. I mean, just some of the history, the potential use, I think, is, I don't want to say it's unlimited, but there's probably some ideas that have not even been thought of yet. It's, you know, here at this room, or, you know, by a developer might say, hey, now, this is just what I've been looking for.
Yeah, structurally, that building is sound.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, but it's
But guess
just,
what,
it's got some issues.
you've got one shot
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think you just want to sit this is easy, let's just get rid of it for.
We are going to tour it on day after tomorrow, Thursday. Anything we should particularly look for or be aware of while we're looking at the building as far as potential uses? You know, Mark and I went through it a while back, and it's got really nice kitchen facilities, some
Yeah.
good laundry facilities.
You know what, maybe we
and-
should, you know, we can issue the proposal and then have an additional, I think that the RFP itself is short, a couple pages, like Mark said, people don't want to look at those big things, they probably get hundreds of those a day. But if somebody does have some interest, have a nice packet ready to go that shows, you know, location, legal, maybe some photos.
Maybe a floor plan, maybe.
Floor plan if you've got one. So, we'll work on a list. Work on a couple samples. I guess we'll gather a couple samples. We can develop a draft. And if you do, then whatever you decide is fine. If you want to pursue this option, great. If not to, that's also fine. We'll start to put together a list of, you know, those two direct contact. So, we'll see what happens. Like I said, you might get 0, you might get quite a few. It just kind of depends on the market.
So in the RFP, I assume you'd have a real picture, maybe an overhead picture, kind of plotting out approximate land and approximate acreage, make it clear that additional land is available.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Chris, or any questions from the board here on the RFP?
I don't have any questions. I guess I was just kind of here to kind of see what your priorities were as far as, you know, as far as getting rid of properties. Is it price? Is it reuse? Is it tax base? Is it all the above?
Well, if we maintain the building for a while, we're gonna have to have some utility and maintenance cost. You wanna mow it up and make it look nice, you'd have to heat it in the summertime, you'd have insurance. My preference would be to sell it and get it on the tax roll. Gene mentioned if the right nonprofit will run it, we can do that. That's my second choice, but I'm certainly open to that option.
And that's kind of the way I feel, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like to have all our options available, because we don't know what's gonna come up. Like you said, we may not get anything. It may be just a nonprofit that comes up and says, hey, we can maybe make this work, you know?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be our best option, and that's gonna be better than having that thing sitting there empty.
The one
Falling
thing,
apart.
having it sit there empty is not good for
That's
anybody.
right.
It's not good for the county, it's not good for the taxpayer, it's not good for a potential reuser,
Because it'll go.
because empty buildings go fast.
Yeah.
I looked at the lease briefly before the meeting, or over the weekend, and we're basically on a month-by-month lease now, as we all know, and so that, the lease could be terminated any time. I think we're anticipating getting the building January 1st. I think maybe our county attorney should look at that to make sure that we get a decisive date and we do it correctly, you know, for both parties. I'm not sure how the insurance is on that. If we have the insurance, I believe Mallard View is carrying insurance on the building now, but I'm not sure on that. Or is it on our rolls for, is it double insured?
Well, I'm sure they have their own insurance, and we have.
They're required to have a lot of
Insurance on
insurance
the
in our lease.
structure.
I saw that,
Yeah,
so.
we have insurance on the structure.
So we'd have insurance, we'd be insuring it as well, for sure, after
Yeah.
the first year, so.
Yeah,
Insurance,
they probably
maintenance,
just got insurance.
utilities,
Kind of like a renter's insurance, probably.
and you talk about, you could not build this building for 2.3 million, I don't think. We couldn't, we just have to find the right match.
And
I think-
maybe you won't find the right match.
I think the value, you know, what kind of value we put on it's gonna be important. Either we put a value that's too high or too low. It's gonna make some people grab at it, maybe, if it's low enough for them, and if it's too high, we're gonna take a second look, you know?
So how does it work if we do place a price on there, Chris? Does that mean
I think-
one of the bidders could go above the asking price? I mean, if they felt like they were in a competitive
I
situation?
don't think so.
You
I
think
don't
we
know.
need to put
I
a
don't
price
think-
on it?
I think you put a,
Well, you started with that.
well, no, I think if your price is important, I don't think you set the price.
Oh.
Okay, so
We
you're
don't
not.
set the price?
I don't think
So you're not setting the price then?
You're not putting a price in the RFP?
I would say.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless it's an assessed or a value, and I don't know if the assessor probably doesn't have it.
No.
No,
No.
she does
Right.
not.
Yeah.
She does not, no record of it.
then
So you just let it out there for them to
And
inquire?
then it's kinda, then it's a best guess of what it really is worth.
So then really, the only things we put in it would be the intended use,
Yep.
more so than anything, and then state your
And
price.
Or rent.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody else on the board, does any of you have any interest in attaching the farm to it at all?
I do not.
I don't think we should at this time.
Why
No.
would we want, I ask myself, why would we want to sell the farmland? It's good income, and it would be, they'd be buying the farm, not the building, and it'd just be a way to get rid of the building, and it would decrease the value of the farm
I
perhaps.
think
don't
attaching
know.
would be a detriment to either sale either way.
And if somebody wanted the building to have additional $1 million+ to the farm on that, is not a good idea either.
Yeah,
They're either gonna want the building or the land.
I think
So
we need to be selling the building, and, but I'm not totally opposed to your idea, though, at some point in time, you know, not together with this, though.
Not together.
No.
Is there an advantage of attaching that we're not recognizing?
You're
in the market?
certainly gonna get some interest in the building. I mean, when you've got, I mean, if you said we might not get any response, one way to get some response is attach land to it. Now, and again, I'm not necessarily, I just haven't thought it through enough, but I wanted to get your guys' temperature to see whether or not there's even an interest in doing it. And you say, why would we do it? Well, we're gonna have to build a jail here in a few years. And, you know, rather than go out and bond for that, you know, it would be a great revenue generator without having to raise taxes to pay for it. That's my interest in it.
For a short period of time.
And again, I just don't feel government, you know, just fundamentally, government needs to be a landlord. I don't think we have a business being as a landlord.
I think
Well-
you're gonna have two totally different interests. The person's that interested in buying the farm ground is not interested
In
in
the
buying
building,
Mallard.
and vice versa.
And vice versa. So I don't think you wanna tie it
Unless you're an
together.
investor. If you're an investor, then you would.
I think here's the risk.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying,
Like whatever you
I want
buy,
discussion on
decide
it.
is good. I think here's the risk you run. Somebody really wants that farm ground, really wants it, for whatever reason. They buy it, and they say, well, that building, I don't care what, it can sit there.
Sure.
And it looks like, pick the old Viola Center School, not picking on anybody in Ogden County, but it looks like a jungle
Mhm.
and a rat hole. You don't want that. Where you've got some value, I think, potentially both sides. If you decide to sell the county farm, that's your decision. You've got some value there, and you've got some other unseen value on the Mallory side. That's my thought.
I agree with your concern there, but
Yeah.
couldn't the RFP stipulate that?
What?
Well, that, you know, about the intended use of the
Yeah,
building.
well-
That either it would be raised, or it would be refit, or within so many years, or,
It can, but, yeah, I mean, sometimes those enforcement things are gonna be difficult down the road. I mean,
Somebody buys it, they
Boards
own it,
change.
how do you make them do anything? But
you know.
If you're gonna try to force
you
them,
can
then
have
the value
developer
goes
agreements
down.
and things.
Yeah.
I think it just makes it, more cumbersome. Again, that's my opinion, Mike, I'm not saying it's right.
well, and I'm certainly not saying mine's right either. I want discussion about it.
That's just a different.
I want it on the table.
My feeling was, line with Dean, I think the farmland and this building are separate issues, and if at some point we'd want to sell the farm ground to generate income for some other project, that's okay, or that's a discussion we can have, but completely separate. It would be really highly unlikely to find an investor that is that diversified that they want a unique building and farmland. And I know a lot of people like to invest in farmland, and they're not interested in the building, and I think vice versa would be fairly true. It could happen, but it'd be a unique situation.
Well, you know, and I think that what the price she talked about there, I mean, let's not have that as our, that'd be nice if we get that, but I think we better look at realistically what we could get. Because I think I told you what Mahaska County sold theirs for.
Mhm.
If you haven't, I'll tell you later. I don't want to say it publicly because
How did it compare with this building?
it was only 50 years old, that's all I know.
The way this is laid out with the single
Huh?
floor
It's like
with the
this building
basement,
then.
it's not laid out the worst in the world, so it's got some.
No, I added these up. Hawkeye's about 10,000 square feet bigger. So,
Okay.
I mean, so you can't really compare the two, but if you took it 2.3 times 39,722 square feet, you
What's-
could kind of do the math.
What's the square feet we have out there?
I got 29,000 is what they provided me.
So it's 29 to 39,000, all right.
I think I should probably report, that I did reach out to two of those entities that you had given me direction to last week. I left a message with Rob Cordes at Carroll Community Schools. I just left a message for him. He did not return my call. And then I did reach out to St. Gregory's and planted a seed there as well. And, you know, the person that answered the phone was merely a receptionist, you know, so said that they would pass the information on, but just to see if there was any dialogue or any interest there that wanted to get started.
I think the more seeds we plant in that respect, the better our chances are of getting an interested party. Yeah, I'm just a little bit on, I've never done an RFP on real estate before. It's kind of interesting, but it's pretty much all up to the buyers. They put their proposal, they go, I'd like to buy it, this is what I want to do with it, and this is what the price would be. And you compare them and have the first right of refusal, obviously, on everything.
Or you can dismiss all of them.
You have to, once you get, we're getting ahead of the game here, but once you do an RFP, and let's say you have someone that comes here and offers a price for it, do you have to have a public hearing and open that up to anybody to raise that price? At one time, we used to,
I believe that you would, Gene, but I'm not.
because somebody could
Yeah.
basically override that price again.
Yeah.
Because that's the way he was when he sold the post office, right?
Mhm.
Holy Mosley, yeah.
But I
I
think
looked
once you
it up
get a
and that's
proposal,
what I read
That you have to do it that way.
Yeah.
once you get a proposal, then we have to open it up again. And hopefully that proposal sticks.
Sure.
Well, I think an RFP is definitely gonna generate some interest in it.
Yeah.
You know, and.
Well, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and it's, if you can get some response to it, you know, they're not committing to anything because they're inquiring, probably more first, and, so then you have somebody or something to follow up with. So I think it's a good idea.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have enough direction from us at this
Yeah,
point, Chris,
I
to
think so.
get a, and how long will it take for you to get a draft for us to look at?
Oh, I don't know, a week or two.
Okay, all
I
right,
don't
so.
say two, I don't say a week, maybe two.
So,
And a sample or two?
Yeah.
all right, so.
In this RFP, do you put in there like there's so many rooms in the?
Yep.
Kitchen and.
Kitchen, so on and so forth.
He said maybe even, put together
Well, that was afterwards.
a
Diagram.
portfolio on it,
Yeah,
I mean.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the right direction.
Okay. I have my marching orders.
I'm still unclear on, for example, let's say we get someone who comes back and offers us $100,000 for the building, just for sake of example, and that we have to, not sure how we handle that. If we auction it up from there, or we give public or ability to pay more for it, I'm not sure how that all works.
From what I read, it was a public hearing.
Yeah, public
I
hearing,
didn't
yeah.
read any more into it because I thought, well, are we gonna sell it or are we gonna rent it? If we're gonna rent it, it doesn't matter. But,
Right.
yeah, I just saw a little code section about county-owned properties.
Is the primary intent of this board to sell the building?
That'd be my first option.
Is there-
Would be mine.
That's a primary intent.
Yeah.
That was my feeling too,
Right.
and if someone felt real strong about renting it, I haven't heard that yet. Okay, very good.
Start there, and if you don't get it sold, then we can do it rental agreement.
What is the cost for you to develop this RFP?
How much they can do it. I don't.
Just curious.
Not really much.
Okay.
If you, Rick and I didn't really talk about that, say nice things about us.
Okay.
Pickled fish tastes good.
Anything else we need to discuss on this RFP discussion here? I think as long as you have a clear sense of direction, and we have a little better understanding.
Yeah, and once we get it kind of finalized, we can.
And,
There is one thing we should probably bring up, is as we're looking at targeted timelines and things, you said within a couple of weeks you might have something for us.
Sure.
But I think there's a sensitivity issue out there as far as if we start marketing this thing and then someone does have some interest, they say, when can I go through it? There's a sensitivity issue that's been brought to our attention out there.
Here's
So
the
we need
sit-
to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Here's, so I just explained the situation.
Yes.
We're planning on doing a tour on tomorrow, or excuse me, Thursday, day after tomorrow. And the Sherry Kidd, who manages out there, was a little bit reluctant. In order to have the whole board out there, we had to have an open meeting. She's a little reluctant to have the public going through this facility when some people are maybe want their presence there a little more confidential.
Sure.
And I sat down and visited with her, and what we decided was, they know when we're coming through, they don't want us to see them, they can turn on the TV and shut their door. And we hate to have them go through the inconvenience, but they're willing to do it.
Right.
And so we're gonna be able to have the full tour Thursday as planned, but that could be a little bit complicated,
Okay.
you know, if investors say, hey, I wanna go through there.
Right.
So we'll talk with Sherry about that when we see her on Thursday.
Because I think somebody would wanna put a proposed line on that structure.
They're gonna wanna see it.
They're gonna wanna see it.
Right.
Yes.
So I
absolutely.
thought I'd better raise that issue before, I mean, just,
But I mean, I don't think that's a big, I mean, it's not like it's like the board's tour, it's not an open meeting if somebody would go look at that facility.
Right, they just have to set it up to
Yes.
Sherry.
Right.
I'm assuming she will be very cooperative with that, but I think
I have
Mark
no
is
doubt
right
in
in
that.
bringing up the
Right.
situation.
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Mark.
Anything else from me? Anything else?
Okay,
Thanks,
thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
Thanks,
And,
Chris.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kind of
Chris.
plan,
Yeah,
kind
you
of
too.
plan on like about the 19th, that's a short 2 weeks from now. That's
Okay.
our, next meeting will be a short week, so,
Sounds good.
sound good?
Thank
Okay.
you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. That brings us up to secondary roads. Good morning, Dave.
Morning.
Dave.
Hi, David.
How's everybody this morning?
Good.
Good morning,
Doing
Dave.
Good.
Only got one thing this morning. Discovered the need for utility permit for the leachate line out by the landfill, and we've got a little bit of property out there that they're gonna actually wanna dig the road up. They're unable to bore at that intersection there where you turn at the recycling center on Kitty Hawk. They're gonna wanna tear that intersection up. It's kind of called my attention.
Okay.
Why can't they bore?
I think it's just too nasty of conditions, and they've only got .22 for grade, so they've got that much in 100 feet for grade. The boring contractor doesn't think he can pull it off. It's asphalt now, concrete back in there.
How big of a pipe they putting in there, Marty?
It's a 12-inch line
12 inch.
going through there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a 4-inch when it goes past that along the road.
So it's going from the landfill where? Across that intersection then?
Yeah, they started down by
To the south,
by
or to the
Moore-
north and east?
They started down by Morehouse Ready Mix, and then they're gonna run a 12-inch line all the way up to Kitty Hawk. And then once it gets across Kitty Hawk, then it'll turn into a 4-inch line, and then the landfill's gonna hook in their septic system to that.
Okay.
And then the leachate line that comes from the landfill will tie.
So it's
into
just a
it.
4-inch line that's going underneath?
It'll be a 12-inch
Oh,
going through the
12
road,
inch.
each 12-inch going through the road. And once it gets across the road, then it goes to a 4.
Okay.
It becomes a gravity, the 12 inches of gravity line that
Mhm.
flows along Industrial Road.
Yeah.
And the pressurized 4-inch that Marty was talking about, that runs along Kitty Hawk, which is within our right of way. That dumps into a manhole there, and then it'll run gravity over to Morehouse. Pretty nasty soil conditions out there.
They
It
ran in,
appears to-
even when they went and dug across the road down by Morehouse down there, they ran into a lot of garbage in there too.
Yeah.
So is the permit for solid waste or for FPV?
It's for solid
Solid
waste.
waste.
Okay, so here's the,
It's signed by their
that's the
engineer,
intersection, and it's gonna
Yeah,
run
shoulder.
this way?
Mhm.
Brian Hartham.
Oh, Hartham, okay. That'd be Dinar's.
For
It's hard to
solid
believe
waste.
that that's straight north.
Yep.
I guess that is there.
Oh, so it's gonna
Here's
come
an
down
industrial
Kitty.
road.
Okay. Here it's coming from Morehouse right here.
So it's gonna go right through here.
And down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, that doesn't exist.
So they're not gonna have to tear up the whole intersection, just the south part of it?
No,
Is that
they-
right?
They
Just-
don't have to tear them, they gotta get across the road, don't
They'll have to go across Kitty Hawk.
they? Because, yeah.
Cause it's going down along that street on the south side.
Yeah, not the whole intersection diagonally, but all of
Across the
Kitty Hawk,
street.
they're gonna have to go
Yeah.
Across Kitty Hawk.
Across the
so-
street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kitty Hawk is where they'll tear up the concrete
Yeah,
to get across.
So this is the road that, we're going to Morehouse from here, right?
Yep,
Morehouse is here, they're bringing a line down here,
yep,
and they're gonna cross right there.
yeah. And this would
So that'd be
Kitty-
on the south side of that, that's not
Yeah.
tearing that whole interstate.
It's just going through Kitty Hawk.
South of
Yeah.
that intersection there.
Yeah.
Yep, gotcha. Yep.
Just going through Kitty Hawk.
Okay,
That'd be a massive, the whole of
Okay.
all three directions.
Okay. Everything okay there then, Dave? Be a little bit of a mess, but I think we should cooperate with that.
Should be okay, yeah.
With that, will you just put white rock in there for this year and then asphalt it later, or you?
Are you gonna put-
Supposedly, they're compacting that to 95% of Proctor density.
Okay, and
So-
go back in there with asphalt
Yeah.
then?
You gonna go back in there with asphalt
We'll
or
probably
concrete?
go back in with concrete, I
Concrete.
suspect, yeah.
Okay.
They wanted to use man mix, but I would just soon keep it closed a little longer. And hopefully they can detour through the landfill to get to the.
Yeah, they can cut through the
to
driveway.
Recycling center.
Yeah.
But they're cutting that one open too. They're supposed to bore that one too, aren't they?
Yeah, it'll end.
Yeah.
Cut that one?
The driveway to the east, I suppose.
Yeah, I bet they will.
Onto
have to.
Kitty Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that'll just be a 4-inch line.
Can they bore that? Don't you know?
They'd be able to bore that one, I would think. I'll ask Mary.
Yeah. And that's a 4-inch line over there.
Yeah, going south on that driveway would be a 4-inch line.
12 inches, that's a big bore.
Oh, I've seen them do 60s.
Really?
Yeah, up here on Main Street in Carroll.
60-inch bore?
Yep.
Holy cow.
We've had some discussion. Is there a motion to approve the utility permit?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the utility permit for landfill. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Anything else, Dave?
Nope.
Just kind of curious while you're here, I know last meeting we talked about some bids for, guess there was a Bobcat T770 and dump and some painting. Any progress on either of those three?
I contacted 3 painting contractors. 2 of them aren't interested. They're too busy. The one that is interested hasn't gotten a quote, so I'm hoping he'll get me.
Okay. All right. We got one other issue then we want to talk to you about, and Mark brought it in. Do you want to go ahead with the Mark?
Yeah, Dave, there was I got an email over the weekend from Pat Gray at the ambulance building. The city's redoing 3rd Street, putting in a new storm sewer. And I'll get you a copy of this, just so you have a better understanding of it. But it's my understanding that the city had to direct the contractor to replace part of the sanitary sewer from the ambulance building. On the east bay door, in front of the east bay door, they had to break that up and put that in. And what they're asking, he spoke with Carrie at the city and said that, asked if they would be interested in replacing the entire section in front of the east bay door. Right now, they would only do a portion, which would leave crumbled concrete along the west edge of the driveway. And they said, plus the additional 4 feet of broken concrete between their section and the bay door, so back north. Corey advised we might be able to have the city pay the county what it would cost for them to replace their section and possibly have secondary roads do the work. He advised the cost difference would probably more than pay for the entire section. Said replacing the entire section would also give us a way out when we replace the rest of the driveway, because the rest of the driveway is still pretty bad down there too. But keep in mind that it's a little bit pretentious. I'm not quite sure what to do, getting wiser minds involved today, because the city's just doing the storm sewer this year, okay? Then next year, they're going to resurface 3rd Street. So I guess what I wouldn't want to have to do is obviously do it twice. So can I at least enlist you to visit with Pat a little bit more about his desire and whether or not, I don't think the availability for you guys to concern yourself with it this summer is there at all. A, you don't have the availability. B, I want to talk more about replacing that whole apron and whether or not that's wise to do when 3rd Street's going to be new next year. Okay? So,
It'd be good to coincide that. They're not doing Third Street this year, they're not doing that asphalt this year.
correct.
Do they have plans put together for that yet?
I think they've budgeted it in their 5-year, but I don't think they've
The
got
actual
firm
plans.
plans for it yet.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna say until you got the actual
it probably hasn't
plans.
been engineered or anything like
Yeah.
that. I doubt it. Because
Hard-
right now,
real
it's
hard
just
to
the
say
storm
what they're
sewer.
gonna do. It might be best to wait, but I'll talk to Randy about that.
You want to just talk directly to Randy?
Yeah.
Okay,
And get old Pat too, see what they're up to.
okay, yeah. Apparently, it's the section just right next to that east bay door. What is there, 4 bays there, so.
Better off just putting white rock.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking too, you know, and
Yeah.
again, some of it's gonna settle and stuff like that, but that's what the rock would do better.
Tie it in.
Right,
Yeah, you do it on the grade elevations. right?
Yep.
right. Could leave a heck of a hump if you do it backwards, so.
Yeah, there's just all sorts of ADA issues.
Oh,
That are
jeepers,
just
yeah,
like,
right,
oh,
yeah.
Things that used to be simple are not quite as simple as they used to be.
Right, so you all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go talk to Randy.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, anything else for engineer before he runs out of here?
No, I haven't got a vote on the Bobcat, and I'm not really sure. I want to talk to some people about how they get along with their belly dump trailers. And when we bought this one, nearly 18 years ago or whatever, they're no longer in business. The one that we've got now, and parts is something that's kind of important. You can't use conventional truck parts, but kind of hopefully we get a manufacturer that maybe be around for the next 20 years. 'Cause it is something that's pretty important.
Okay.
Anything done as far as painting?
No, I met with 3 contractors, took 2 down to look at it. One was said it was too busy, took 2 down to look at it. One after looking at it said it was too busy, I didn't get it done. There's one left that I don't think is too busy, but I have to get a quote from him yet.
Okay.
So hopefully, I was hoping to have that this morning, but it didn't show.
You're planning on going to Friday?
I didn't get it.
I'll get in touch with you in the week.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, well, you're keeping things moving, I appreciate that. Okay, thanks a
Thanks,
lot, Dave.
Dave.
Have a good week,
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
Bye-bye.
Right, following our agenda on down, the next is a plat, the plat North Coon Rapids, section 16. They're platting up some farm ground and the Laniger acreage there, as I refer to it.
Is that Union?
Union.
Yeah,
G-
yes,
just north of-
section 16
Yeah,
Union.
I
it's the-
looked at it.
Just north of Coon Rapids.
Yeah, I looked at the aerial, I didn't print it off, I'm familiar with that area, it's all farmland except for that lot 1, which is, I call it the Waniger acreage.
I'd make a motion to approve the plat if there's no other questions.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the plat, is there any discussion on the motion?
Pretty straightforward.
Carries, absolutely. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion is carried, plat approved. Okay, next we have a resolution for interfund transfer. It's 35,000 from general basic to capital fund. Courtney, is there anything you'd like to explain on that?
We budgeted 35 to fund the phone project. It's in our fiscal 17 budget, so I was just doing the transfer now. We've paid for half of the phone already. We have to pay for the other half, of course, when it's finished. So I'm just moving the money now.
Question, when we approved the quote, it had to be from Scott, we'd budgeted for 35 and the actual quote was $32,074. So are we anticipating some additional expenses?
I
or-
thought there was going to be some maybe in switches or something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
On
there-
top of the 32?
Yeah, we have to do some in-house,
Oh, okay.
we're gonna be doing those switches, so.
top of that.
And it was
so.
my understanding that Carl may take care of that out of the IT budget, but I wasn't sure, and since we budgeted this amount, that's the amount I'm moving. You know, I suppose after the project's done, if we haven't used it, we can move the balance
Okay.
back if you want, or you can keep it in the capital
Okay.
fund for future projects.
All right. All right, that's fine, and I think if we don't use it, we should push it back, but it's not a very large amount, so I'm not gonna get too upset about it. Just curious why, if there were some other expenses, and there very well could be, that justified transferring 35 as opposed to 34, 74.
Yeah,
or
it's really
30,000.
only given us, you know, maybe $3,000 in extras. And hoping, I'm guessing we won't have that, but you know how it is when you do something. It seems
Sure.
like there's always something.
Okay. All right. That's my only question. So we have for us a resolution for interfund transfer for 35,000. Anything else you want to add, Courtney?
I don't think so.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and second to approve the resolution for interfund transfer. It's a roll call vote.
Bach?
Yes?
Beardmore?
Yes.
Shetler?
Yes.
Miners?
Yes.
Danzer?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll pass this around for signatures.
Okay, next on the agenda is set a public hearing for the fiscal year 17 budget amendment. Set a time and a date, and perhaps you should review it with us a little bit.
I will. So, everybody should have a sheet that looks like this. I did send out an email to all the department heads, let them know we were gonna be doing a budget amendment. I heard back from Carl with IT Services requesting $15,000 for IT services. He explained it to me, it had to do with some server and some issues. If you want a more detailed explanation, you'll need to talk to Carl. I'm not computer savvy, and he was really going into detail, and he lost me. I'm gonna be real honest with you.
But you said it's for server issues?
He explained it had something to do with the servers. So that's what that is there for. The next line is Emergency Preparedness Coalition. The past couple years, we've been getting grant money for emergency preparedness. It's been used for various things in the sheriff, the ambulance. It's basically headed up by Sarah Anderson, the EMA coordinator. And we were having issues last year where departments weren't wanting to buy anything because they were taking it out of their individual departmental budgets. Thus, it was lowering what they could actually spend in their budgets, even though they were getting money back in the form of a grant. It was suggested to me that we handle the coalition grant money like we do the grant money we get from the state, run it through a pass-through grant in the home care aids department. We budget $125 in expense, $125 in revenue, and then it basically goes in and out that account all year long, and then it doesn't affect anybody's departmental budgets. Certainly doesn't have to be done that way, but it was a request, so that's why I put it in there.
And in the scenario you're giving us, it's
A wash.
a wash, but they did not budget for this, is what you're saying?
Correct. And then, for example, I think it was the ambulance last year had like a $10,000 purchased through the grant. So
Mhm.
they had to front the $10,000 out of their departmental budget. It lowered what they had to spend. Now they got the money, but they still had lowered their expenses, and they couldn't. The only way to get that back is to do a budget amendment, to add back that in the expense line, because once you spend it, it just lowers your overall asking. So, yeah, you can do a budget amendment every time, and we did a lot of those last year where we were taking into account the grants coming in and out. And I thought it might be simpler to have it in one department where it goes in and out. Neil talked a little bit about how general basic would be kind of fronting the original expense until the grant money came in, and that is true. That is true.
Yeah, what it amounts to is somebody, somewhere has to front the expense, because in these grants, you have to spend it before you can get repaid back. And in some, if they have not budgeted for it, they don't have it, and so it causes them a cash flow issue until the grant gets paid back, so.
Make sure it's on.
I think it would be best if they knew it ahead of time and budgeted for it, but that's not always the case, the way grants come up. And furthermore, if they spent the money in FY 17, for example, and got reimbursed for it in FY 18 with the grant, it is tough for them to budget for that as well.
So, and, you know, all of these are up for discussion, removal, changing. We got plenty of time to do this, so. The next line we'll go down is the courthouse anniversary. We need to budget an expense and a revenue. Expense, of course, to pay for the coins that we're going to be selling. We talked about we need coffee and rolls for the chamber coffee that we're going to have that morning also. As far as other expenses, they'd be pretty minimal, cups, napkins, things like that. And then I also, on the other side of that, have 10,000 going back in revenue. I think what it's gonna come down to is we're not gonna spend near the 10, and we're gonna probably collect more than the 10, but I just needed to have an amount in there to get started. If we collect more than 10, that's fine, we won't have to worry about amending anything. You can collect as much revenue as you need. The expense, I thought, you know, once this project is done and we know what we spent, I'd like to do an amendment, and we usually do one in November, December, to take that back out of there, because we won't need it after that point. But I just wanted to make sure that we had kind of a good round number, and that can be adjusted. I can't remember what the coins were gonna cost.
6.
6.
So, I mean, yeah, 10 is a very generous amount, I guess, you know.
So 6 for the coins, that leaves you with 4. So we could do 8 and 8 too.
Going into this, Dean and your committee had a question on how to handle the money properly,
Yes.
and this was the direction that the auditor, state auditor gave you, Courtney, is that correct?
Correct, yep, I did hear back from her, and she said as long as everything is well documented about where it's going, that it would be okay.
Very good.
Talks about making a statement of purpose or a statement of public use. So, for example, our revenue or any profit from that would need to be publicly stated, maybe during a board meeting or something, that the intended use of this is to be used for county wellness, to lower, you know, to make employees healthier, to thus reduce the overall cost of, the hopes of reducing claims in the future.
Right.
That could be just a statement that's made, just on record.
Okay.
And I did hear back from Pat Gray. He's requesting $93 for medical supply, which I think was kind of a small amount, but
Yeah,
I didn't hear
it's-
back from him
I
when
didn't
called,
understand that
so-
one at all.
Yeah. So I put in here what people requested, and I thought it's not my job to tell them no. So, anyway, and then we have fiscal 16. You can see that this is some of that grant from last year, and he's requesting, because he had to spend that 10%, he's requesting that back in his expense line, so he's able to spend that. But then again, that was from fiscal 16. So that's his request. There are those two amounts. The drainage assessment, I got that sheet, I think I have it in here. We budgeted $2,300 for drainage tax, what the county would owe, and we came up 48.74 short. If you remember, we did a lot of drainage assessments, so that's what we need to cover the remainder of what the county owes for the drainage districts. So You can see the general basic expense totals are 45,246. We're budgeting revenue at 22,000, so there'd be a shortfall of 23,246. And then below that, we have case management, and the board had approved hiring a new employee over there, and the salary was not budgeted for. The health insurance, I did the calculation, and he has enough in his health insurance line to cover that new employee, but there was not enough in salaries, of course, and then FICA and IFRS needed to be adjusted as well. So in that case management fund, the shortfall there is 35,663. And again, that doesn't cover the health insurance, because that was already in his budget. The next line is capital projects, conservation. Jason had requesting, they're gonna do some leveling on the trail. Let me see if I can find his email. Explain it a little more. They're gonna fill and level the cracks in the last remaining asphalt portion of the trail from Swan Lake to Maple River. It's relatively good shape yet. They're gonna keep up with the maintenance to extend the life of this section of the trail. So, he's requesting, and he would be taking the $15,000 out of his capital reserves, and he'd just like to budget that money to do the maintenance. So, as you can see, the total expenses, 95,901, total revenue 22. Shortfall would be 73, or the amount over the expenditure, 73,909. And I was proposing to set the hearing for 9/26, which gives us some time if you'd like to review this, and next week, or even this time, today, make changes, and I could get new paperwork to you, and we could look at it again on Monday, but this is what was requested of me.
Looking at maybe probably 10 o'clock.
Yeah, on the
Time-wise.
26th is
Okay.
what I was recommending. And we still have time to make changes and look at it again on Monday too, if we want. I just wanted to make it late enough that we weren't pressed for time.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for Courtney at this time?
I would only just entertain your thoughts on maybe having Carl, maybe next Monday, come up and visit with us a little bit about those servers.
Okay.
I'd like to know more about that, and as a board. And then, I don't know, did we want to mess with this $93 or not, but that is really odd. I mean, that's a box of Band-Aids.
Yeah, I don't know what his explanation, I don't even know if he had an explanation.
No one can call them that close.
He just says first $93 needs to go back into medical supply, and the second is a 10% holding from last year's coalition. That needs to be
I don't know,
put in
we need to
there.
mess with it, but I would certainly request that Carl come up and visit with us about those servers. I don't know if it has something to do with the phones or not, because
No, I don't think so.
The bid we got, we're getting a new server.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with phones.
Okay. Well, if you've got something running down or running out of memory or what, but.
So you don't wanna do anything with this?
Well, we can set the public hearing, I'm all
Yeah.
right with that,
Yeah.
but.
That servers, would that do with the new licensing station maybe?
No, it has something to do with the way things are getting backed up, and I'm not an IT person, I don't understand it, but one's not reading the other one, and they have to do some upgrades to I don't even know. I hate to even try to explain it, because it's probably not
Sure.
right, but I know he did say the server.
Okay.
And we have multiple servers, so that can be any one of them.
So we'll visit with Carl on the 12th on that, and we still need a motion to set the public hearing, and the proposed time was the 26th at 10 a.m.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to set the public hearing for September 26th at 10 a.m. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is set. Obviously, if anyone has any other issues with the, or questions about this, we can discuss them on Monday.
The case management thing, we knew that when we did their pre-budget way back, we had to kind of see us where we're at with your caseload, so we kinda knew we were gonna run into that one, but you couldn't budget for it either, so.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a Class C liquor license by the Carroll Bowl. They requested it.
I'd make a motion to approve the Class C liquor license for Carroll Bowl. We had, a couple weeks ago, we had the notification of a change of ownership.
Second that motion?
This is also Sunday sales. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, it's. Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the Class C liquor license for Carroll Bowl Incorporated. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Need a stamp on that?
Updated or not? Very good. No, it's not.
Is it?
It's August
Oh, it's
29th.
August 29th.
You fooled me, Marty.
I messed up.
You wanna stamp this one, and I'll keep the other
That
one
one?
as my dummy copy, or did you stamp it?
You stamped it already?
Yeah, there's another one. I'll take that one just for my file.
You lost a month.
Don't forget about that.
Probably got some hay to cut.
No, chopping corn silage.
I wondered if you guys were getting started with that.
Started Friday.
How's it look?
Not as good as people think it is.
Yeah, it looks good from the road, doesn't it?
Yep.
Okay. Now we have the employee benefit statement. This is something Courtney has been working on, and this is sort of how it looks, well, it is how it looks, where we've got a column with the employee and employer, compares what each is pays and how their check is coming up. And then the part I wanted everybody to review is at the bottom, when we list that, please note, this is only partial listing. Some additional benefits are 9 paid holidays, personal days, life insurance, workman's comp, county-sponsored flu shots, and medical wellness tests. Certain employees also receive additional benefits such as housing, utilities, shoes, uniforms, collection of union dues, etc. And then, of course, it opens at the top, saying, as valued county employees, we are providing you with a summary of your earnings. And towards the end, it says your services to county employees greatly appreciated. Employee input on matters concerning employee benefits is appreciated. Is there anything there that we missed, should be edited or changed? Courtney's ready to go to get these out to everyone. But I wanted to run it by the entire board first in case there's something we missed or
Is that
could.
workman's comp is not actually a benefit, that's required by the code, isn't it?
It's what?
Required by code, I wouldn't say that's really a,
Workman's comp insurance?
yeah, additional benefit.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on that one.
Okay, we can take that one out. It's certainly a benefit of working here that you don't get if you have your own business.
True.
That's true, if you're in your own business, but if you're in
Right.
any other business, it's part of the
No,
cost.
it'd be
doing
part of their
business.
benefit too.
Yeah.
so. Part of the reason I wanted it on there is one thing I'm thinking of is, let us say someone is applying for secondary roads job and they go, well, what kind of benefits are there? You could cross out the name at the top or something like that and say, well, here's who's working at the position you're looking for. Here's the benefits. It could be used somewhat as a recruitment tool because I think I don't think we do a very good job of explaining the many, many benefits of being a county employee. There's quite a few of them, and the diapers and that, and the insurance. It's a very good benefit program. Maybe not the best in the world, but it rates up there very well. So I'm thinking maybe as a recruitment tool. And if a potential employee says, yeah, oh, workman's comp, yep, okay, that's kind of nice to have in case I would get hurt on the job. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No, that's good.
There were some other suggestions I had that I didn't put down. I don't know, that were just, like suggestion, our travel reimbursement and the meals and mileage, but that's more of a reimbursement for expenses rather than employee benefit, I thought. So there's a lot of things that the county does do that are good, but they're more of a reimbursement, than an actual benefit. Okay. Well, I'm fine with letting Courtney run with this then. I think it's good that the employees have it in their hand and shows them the value of their job as a total package as opposed to just the dollar amount on their paycheck every 2 weeks.
And I plan on doing this again at the end of the calendar year and sending it with their W-2s. Because I kind of wanted to do this just to see how it's set up. It looks good. I think we'll do it again at the end of the year. And send it out with the W-2s. That way people know how they did the calendar year. Because, we care about fiscal, they care about calendars.
So you're gonna send it out twice then?
Yeah, and it's just gonna be in the paychecks, probably,
Okay.
so it's not, it's just the piece of paper for each person. We're only gonna do it for full-time people or anybody that's eligible for county benefits. Maybe have a few permanent part-time people that would get one, but we're just gonna do it for full-time.
Okay. All right, very good. Courtney, I appreciate your cooperation on this. This project was done several years ago before we had this software. It was quite a drawn-out, extensive process, and so Courtney's expertise and willingness to help and the software we have, it's come together pretty darn good. Thank you, Courtney.
So going forward, since you have the software and you've done it once, it should be easier the next time?
Yeah, I basically just set it up, and it wasn't hard this time. I just set this up and I have the report ran as a PDF and I can print it from here and have pages in here with this already on it and it'll just print on there. So
Sure.
not too difficult.
Well done.
Yes, it's good.
Thank you,
One
Courtney.
benefit of our new software.
Yeah, that was the software. Okay. Next, I was asked to put this on the agenda, the Maple River Sauk Trail encroachment discussion. We know the situation. We've got the encroachment there, which is on county property. We've got some people that would like it gone sooner than later. And on August 15th, we had asked our county attorney, and he said a brief statement that he was kind of working on it, kind of not working on it. But, I don't know, Dean, do you have anything to add on this here?
Well, there are some, conservation would like to move forward with plans. There was a Eagle Scout that wanted to use this as part of getting a badge, his Eagle Scout badge, and wanted to do some work on that. And so the longer that we delay this, and I guess for my personal feel, I went back there and looked at that. It's a really nice area back there, and it's really too bad that we're not allowing the county residents who own the property to be able to use it. And we've drugged this thing out a long time already, and I just think it's time to move forward. I think Jason wanted to be on the agenda next week, and I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the board, and so that we can contact our county attorney and give us a good explanation on what's happening.
So, did you want to invite our county attorney in the next meeting as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the request, the suggestion from Dean, and I concur, is to put it on the agenda for next meeting. Jason will be here, and the county attorney will be invited, and we'd certainly appreciate an update from him. And previously, he said that it probably wasn't good use of his time to get frequent status report requests. But the question, how frequent is it? This is probably the first request we've had in a long time for an update, so I don't feel we're badgering him, too many requests. Okay, so Dean's request to put this on the agenda next week, and we'll invite John, ask him for an update, and we'll have Jason in to express what he would like to do with the area or something like that.
Mhm.
And that type of thing. Okay, anything else on this?
Yeah, the Sauk Rail Trail Association is probably gonna be in attendance as well, and they've got contributions to the area that they would like to, so.
Okay. Let's, since we have a few people coming in, I think we should set a time on it. Like, what times do we have open, Courtney?
It's 12, right? I don't have anything yet, so what time do you want to do it? Sometimes when you have people coming, 9 o'clock's a good time.
Just do it.
Because they can do it.
Put them right on the agenda right away.
Then
I think so
hopefully-
too. Then if,
Not hanging around.
Yeah.
let's plan on 9 o'clock, and Courtney, if you would please send John a letter that explains this again as you did in the past, and
Okay.
we appreciate it.
Kind of maybe let them know who's gonna be here and maybe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else we'd like to discuss on that issue now? Be nice to keep
Is
it
that all you
going.
need with that? I mean, in support of that?
Well,
Is that-
the
do you
biggest
need
thing
any
is,
more?
the biggest thing is that we need to make, we need to have John here. I mean, if it needs to be a letter from the board, that we,
Are you seeking a deadline? Or is Jason seeking a deadline?
without a deadline, this can go on for a long time. I guess so, yeah, I guess I am seeking a deadline.
Do you know what they have in mind?
No?
Okay.
That's what I was gonna suggest. From my understanding, I talked to somebody about this last Saturday night, and it's a couple family members that are involved in this that are kinda dragging things out. I think we need to find out who it is, and then set a timeline and give them so much time, and it's not done, it's over.
And that would mean that we clean it up and then send them a bill, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they'll clean it up and it's done. We need to send them a bill. Quan said they would come out and get any metal that's out there,
Mhm.
so I mean, no charge to that or anything like that, so the process just does need to keep
Those
moving
containers
forward.
on there, how full are those?
Not very full. There's not a lot out there.
No.
No.
The main thing is just all that fencing around there.
Yeah, there's some fencing and.
They're certainly welcome to have that. I wish they would.
Sure.
We could stack it up for them somewhere.
I think the conservation employees would take the fence down and stack it, and if they wanted to come and get it, they could have it. I mean, I think that they would more than be happy to assist, with this process. It's nothing that, I think we just want to get the process going and move it along.
Okay. And that would be good to know, is if that's the case, if the conservation employees are willing to take it down and do that and stack it up wherever they want, that'd be good to know when they could start that process.
Sure.
Okay.
Just as an aside to this, there's been, I know this is great bike riding weather, but I tell you, it has just been a couple of occasions. I just take that route when I go see Mom at the end of work, the landing down here by H&H. And, at 5:30, 5:45, you cannot get a parking spot in there. And the same one out by Carroll Coolers. That trail is used. I mean, it is used. It is a very, very popular attraction in Carroll County, and I've heard the complaints so long, and it's stuff like this is what gives government a black eye in terms of things moving so slow. If that was a private entity, we'd have had it handled ages ago. So I would be in support of anything that we can do.
Had we been able to move this thing forward, we'd probably have a park there by
Right.
today. and it would be a nice park. It'd be restroom facility there, and
You got a new business there that's, invested a lot of money in their venture, and, they deserve it, and you're right, the taxpayers
just give it back to
deserve
county use
Right,
again,
Right,
so that the rest of the county can use it.
right. So,
Okay.
yeah, good.
We'll continue the discussion on Monday.
Okay.
Yep, very
Thank
good.
you.
They're on the agenda for 9 AM. All right, next is the manure management annual updates. We have 3. Change of ownership, Stone Path 3 is now Twin Hill LLC in Section 23, Pleasant Valley Township. The Connor Finishing Site in Section 7 of Glidden Township has no changes. Jeff Schoen in Section 1 of Pleasant Valley Township changes crop rotation and is using manure analysis. Okay. Marty, would you like to start committee reports today?
Mine's pretty simple. Didn't have anything last week. This week I've got Raccoon Valley Electric. Annual meeting is Friday night and Hungry Canyons on Friday. That's all I have.
Is that on Wednesday night or Friday night?
Wednesday night is the Raccoon Valley, and then Friday is the Hungry Canyons.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'll be next. Very short week as well. Did spend some time at Mallard View visiting with Sherry, which I've explained already, and went and had some Maple River discussion and did the radio newspaper, so I had a short week as well. And this week, on Wednesday, I have the Raccoon Valley Electric Cooperative meeting as well. Thursday morning, I'm going to attend North Raccoon River meeting at Lake City. It sounds very similar to the one that was worked on in Panora that didn't go anywhere. And of course, on Thursday also, we have our Mallard View meeting. Mark?
Yes, Thursday night had E911 and EMA meetings. As I mentioned earlier, it was very, very lengthy. A lot of business here. See if I can capture your attention for a moment. The 911 board meeting met first, and that was certainly the lengthy one. The first item of business was an update on the new radio vendor. We're no longer using electronics engineering out of Ames. We're using First Wireless out of Omaha, also called D&D Communications. They provided us with our very first preventive maintenance report, very lengthy, very detailed, and very useful, something of which we've never had received before. And we discussed the items involved with that and updates on their radio purchases and their service thus far, and they are getting all A's. Very, very pleased with the new service. We talked about the courthouse tower antennas from the windstorm. There was a couple of the antennas that got knocked out of service due to the wind. The backups, as you know, worked quite well, so we didn't have any loss of service. But they're talking about adding some brackets to those to support those a little bit more. They're very, very spendy, mostly due to the tower climbing issue. The quotes are just over $6,000 to add the brackets to just the two antenna. Yeah, I think I might.
No.
What am I out, right? You'd only fall once.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. The next item was, there was a talk again, the ongoing issue about the 911 street sign, the intersection replacements. As we know, the secondary roads does that to us now. We're not talking about the little blue signs at each address. We're talking about the intersection signs, and there's 2 of them at each intersection. And this has always been a bane in the side of the 911 board. But, we do budget for it. There is money in the sign budget, but we're talking about, it's been brought to our attention that due to the new reflectivity issues, they no longer qualify for that. The first responders do use them. He said they're even with all this new technology in place, they said they still rely on the signs to be there. And so there's a very hearty discussion about replacing them, and they have agreed to at least begin that process to replace every single one in the county. And I think there was roughly about 1,000 of them, if you figured every single one. So they're going to get started on it, see how far the budget takes for it, and secondary roads, of course, is who, charges that back. So, let's see, legislative update ensued. Then we talked about the wireless pass-through increase. It went from 46 cents to 60 cents starting next year or this year, and that's going to provide us with an additional $30,000 worth of revenue. And then of course, can't be used for signs. It can be used only for comm center upgrades. And then the consolidation grant, this was what took most of the evening, but the new consolidation grant, the one that we've always had before, has gone away, where there was like a $100,000 grant. And now the new grant will provide for up to $200,000 worth of comm center upgrades if it's a dollar-for-dollar match. So say, for an example, they'll go up to $200,000 if we match it $200,000. Likewise, if we go match at 100, then they'll go 100. And it's on a first-come, first-served basis, so it's not a competitive nature. Again, with all the upgrades that we've done in there, it's just a matter of whether or not, we really need to be upgrading things. We agreed to apply for what's called a general need purpose grant, and that would upgrade the radios in the first in the cars, in the law enforcement, and then whatever's left would go to the fire departments. And we ended up going with $75,000 with a $75,000 match. Each radio is about $5,000, so we figured it'd go as far as 30 radios. Okay, so you've got the county would be 9 cars right there. Then you got the city of Carroll, which would be I think there was 11 cars there, and then it would go to Coon, Manning for law enforcement, and then go to the fire departments. Let's see, under old business, they talked about the I Am Responding, the end date for CAD paging, and then update on Carroll's project that the bulk of the upgrade project is done and the street span database is nearly complete. That was the end of E911. Then we went to EMA, and that one was much quicker, although I'm not making it so. We talked about the emergency support function plans update is all completed, and that's a process on who responds. It's actually organizationally laid out. And then we talked about certifying with the certification document signatures, got that done. And then we talked about the Region 5 hazmat. I'll pass these around. Dean had mentioned last week that Region 5 is considering upping their $1 charge to $1.25. Sarah gathered information on all of the other hazmats that are in operation throughout the state of Iowa. As you probably already know, ours is the highest per capita, and quite a bit higher than everybody else. The state average is about 50 cents per capita. Needless to say, there was pretty hearty agreement not to support an increase in any way. And like I said, also the training that they're doing out there, a lot of them say, I don't even know when we saw them last. But they aren't interested in making a change either, because the one that's over in Crawford County is just a 3-member county or region, and apparently it's not going very well, and I guess it's got some political ties that they don't want to be associated with. And they didn't have much interest in going to Pottawatomie because you've got about an hour and 15-minute response rate rather than like a 45-minute response rate. And then they didn't have much interest in the Polk County one either. So they didn't really have much interest in moving, but they certainly had urged us to stand our ground. Then there was discussion about the EMA decontamination trailer, and I had forgotten about this thing, but we actually have a decontamination trailer that was purchased way back when, what was his name that ran EMA for the
Derek.
Derek. And, I mean, the thing just doesn't get used and doesn't go anywhere. And so the general agreement is to essentially get rid of it. It's no longer needed, the general tone, and then they will probably sell it or put it up at auction, or maybe repurpose it for something else. But then there was a general tone that got into the next item, which was options for a new vehicle purchase. Sarah has a 2003 Chevrolet pickup that's pretty well rusted out, doesn't have a ton of miles. It's got 85,000 miles on it, still very serviceable. But a lot of the agencies are now going to these first response units that have, because if we would ever lose, the comm center and then, have our backup, like it was a massive storm or something like that, then we no longer have a way to communicate with the comm center. So they're talking about doing a mobile comm center, or a mobile comm center and first response unit. And they didn't choose to do anything about it yet, but they're gonna do some investigating on what some other agencies have done and get some cost proposals and bring that forward. And then there was an update on the ALICE training throughout the county, which has been proven very, very popular, especially in the private sector. And that was my report for EMA E911. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's the calls that I made about Mallard View. And then this coming week, the only thing that I have is the Mallard View tour.
Mark, I see Audubon on there, they do not,
They stand alone.
so
They don't have anybody.
They do not have anybody.
so they're at risk of paying a full bill when they ever have something.
Correct.
Sure.
Correct.
And they should.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's some counties, some southern Iowa that.
Yeah, there's some other counties that do it too. If you, it's kind of like, it's kind of like self-insuring a hole-in-one. Is about what you're doing. I mean, that's my analogy. Is as soon as you decide to no longer pay the premium, guess what? Someone hits the hole-in-one.
Sure. No, they have Highway 71 running through there, which is probably the biggest
Exposure.
exposure that they have.
So then do you just, let's say you're not part of one and you have an issue, do you pay for somebody to come in and clean it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cheaper than paying?
Well, you figure $20,000 a year is what we're investing today. Oh, what'd they say? We've had, just give you a little data, we've had two responses in the 16 years.
One was in Templeton.
Is that what I wrote down
They
here?
are.
Pardon?
In Carroll County.
In Carroll County.
They had,
Yeah, 2 calls in 16 years. BV has had 1 in 20 years. But they didn't want to get rid of it either.
but they do have incidents that happen.
Yeah.
And they're obviously,
And when they do happen, they're gonna be costly.
They're major.
yeah, and cleanup in these environmental hazard situations are expensive. And,
So who's responsible, let's say a semi gets into an accident pulling hazardous material, it's gotta be cleaned up, but doesn't the person that owns the semi have to pay to clean it
right,
up?
they.
They'll go
have to
back and
pay.
subrogate on that.
Yeah, yep. Fairway had a.
Pays a lot of salaries. They have a secretary there that makes $60,000 a year. And we're not quite sure what she does. I mean, that she doesn't call meetings, she doesn't. I
Yeah,
mean,
she does. She calls
well,
all the meetings and,
Yeah,
she
okay.
pulls everybody
Once
together.
every quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. Dean?
Didn't have anything last week that was scheduled, just did a lot of follow-up, like on the Maple River thing, and tied in some loose ends on the 50th anniversary function coming up. And want to every time we can promote that, and the sales of the the coins are now underway, and I think by next week, I believe we're going to probably have the coins here, so you can actually look at them. So we want to promote that. This week, I've got, I'm gonna go to Lake City on, well, is it the Raccoon Valley, is that on Wednesday night? Is that when that is?
Yeah.
I'll probably be attending that. And then, there's how do I wanna say that? Are you gonna go to that WMA meeting in Lake City? I think you
Yes,
mentioned
that's
that.
Thursday morning.
Thursday morning. I intend to go to that. And then we have the Mallard View meeting at 1 o'clock, and I believe we're changing the 50th anniversary to 3 o'clock meeting that we're gonna have. And then I'll be going over to Jasper County for a public health meeting there on, they've gone through a process of, they were actually forced to go away from their contracting with the hospital there because of the change of ownership of the hospital. It's now a Unity Point Hospital. It was a county hospital, or it was a regional hospital, and then it changed ownership, so now it's a Unity. They're not interested in providing public health. So the county then took it back. So we're going to go over there and look at that as a model, possibly going forward. That's going to be my week.
Okay. Gene?
Last week was not real busy. On Thursday, Ken Pingree and I went down to talk at the Coon Rapids Rotary in regard to the jail tours that we've been doing in the jail committee. And also they had me discuss the license, driver's license issues here in the county, and we talked about that. So it was very good. A lot of interest on what was going on in those two topics. And then this week I have a CADC at today, and then on Thursday will be the tour of Mallard View. That's what I have at this point.
Just mentioned last week, Governor Branstad was in town, and I publicly thanked him on behalf of the Board of Supervisors for getting the DOT back in here, as did another business person in Carroll. Okay, and you got the radio today, Gene, is that right? Okay.
I'll make a note that the kiosk is now up in the courthouse, so that's a good thing, and I think they've been using it. Not a lot.
Anticipate being up and running September 21st with driver's licenses here, so. And she'd be glad to come down and talk to us anytime, but I don't think it's anything other than that.
It's bigger than I thought it was gonna be.
Really?
Me
I thought
too.
it was smaller.
Yeah. Too bad it's gone.
Are there any comments from those in attendance? Courtney, what do we have on the agenda for next week? We got
Just John at 9.
we got
John and Jason at 9. We have Bill Day. And I'll be putting this IMWCA, it's where we're gonna vote on trustees. It's kind of the standard thing, we'll have that on the agenda as well. And I'm gonna get in touch with Michelle over in Greene County because they got that meeting canceled how many times and I didn't hear back from her, so
Okay.
that might possibly be put on.
They've got to get that done, get that paid, don't they?
One would think. so.
Well, this 5% retainer fee is not gonna get paid till we get done. So I think the contractor will be pushing for it a little bit too. Okay, all right. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. Debatable, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.